Hello, let me welcome our guest, who is one Rostyslav Khotin, who's a journalist from Radio Liberty. Good afternoon to you.
Hello.
Well, we've just heard from our correspondent that it feels like a great injustice that the Russian troops are amassing on the other side of the border of Kharkiv, and Ukraine cannot use whatever little munition, whatever little weapons it has to shoot on the other side of the border. Do you think that the current meeting in Prague will change that situation?
The sand is shifting, actually. There were two countries with objections about using Western-provided ammunition, arms and weapons and ammunition for Ukraine to use them on the Russian territory, on Russian soil. That's primarily the United States and Germany, but situation is changing very fast, dramatically. So now Germans indicated that they will allow using for Ukraine to use these weapons on the Russian territory, and America is shifting. The New York Times newspaper wrote that President Biden is changing his mind, and America might allow Ukraine to use. There will be no formal announcement, but there will be some kind of preconditions. First of all, Ukraine could use these weapons only against military installations, military bases on Russian territory. That's the first one. And second one, that these military bases and installations should kind of be the kind of which Russia use against Ukraine. So it's kind of retaliatory strikes against military objects on the Russian soil. Ukraine won't be able to strike deep into Russian territory, only against neighboring regions of Russia near Ukrainian-Russian border. And also there will be no strikes permitted by the United States against energy infrastructure in Russia and other infrastructure, civilian infrastructure. So only military objects, only those which are used by Russia against Ukraine, not deep, very deep into Russian territory, and Ukraine should not target energy infrastructure in Russia. That's preconditions. Situation is changing very fast, and there are already kind of majority of NATO allies who see no problems for Ukraine already to strike with Western weapons against Russia, against targets on the Russian territory.
All right, and this is developments particularly significant when it comes to the Kharkiv region, as we do know that Russians choose to hit that part mostly from firing from within Russian borders, in a sense kind of poking through the fence, hoping that the Ukrainians will not be able to retaliate. So when it comes to logistic and a situation on the ground, how much could this decision realistically change?
You know, Kharkiv is located on the Russian-Ukrainian border, just 35 kilometers from Russian territory. So it's Ukraine's second largest city, which is absolutely disarmed, and not enough. Ukraine has not enough air defenses in and around Kharkiv. So that's why for Ukraine it's crucial to have this permission, because Russia uses missiles from Russian territory, uses long-range artillery from Russian territory, and uses guided bombs, which are dropped from Russian bombers on the which are still technically on the Russian side of the border. So Russia uses those bombs, missiles, drones, and artillery, long-range artillery from its territory, shelling Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, and Kharkiv region. So that's how technically situation is, because, as I said, Kharkiv is right on the border with Belgorod region of Russian Federation.
Well, so we are hoping that finally in this conflict, Ukraine will stop fighting, as it's often described, with one hand tied behind its back. But even if NATO comes to a conclusion that Ukraine is allowed to strike into the Russian territory, is there enough munition? Is there enough bombs, shells to actually fight back at the moment?
The crucial thing now is actually artillery, because as you know, there is a good proverb that artillery is a god of war, and it's been true for 19th century, for the 20th century, and it's true now even for the 21st century, although drones are now also a crucial part of the modern warfare in Ukraine. So artillery is extremely important, and here comes this Czech initiative announced in February by Czech President Petr Pavel, and Czechs wants to collect around 1 million, 1.5 million artillery shells for Ukraine from all around the world, from Africa, from Asia, from Middle East, wherever it's possible. Already 15 countries volunteered to financially support this Czech initiative for artillery shells, but actually the number of countries which gave money already, contributed money, is just 6 countries, and I could name them. It's Canada, it's Germany, it's Portugal, it's Netherlands, Denmark, and the Czech Republic, of course. The first delivery of artillery shells for Ukrainian armed forces, for Ukrainian artillery, will be made possible within the next few weeks in June, and the first batch for June will consist of between 50,000 and 100,000 artillery shells for Ukraine, followed by up to 500,000 by the end of the year. And possibly Czechs even are saying that the Czech initiative could get around the world up to 2 million even artillery shells. But there is a tough competition with Russia, because Russia also wants to snatch these artillery shells from all over the world. So the Western partners should be pretty quick to outpace Russia in this competition for artillery shells.
All right, and I would like to go back to what you mentioned earlier about how the sands are shifting when it comes to Germany, who has changed its position, and the U.S.'s stance sort of shifting a little bit too. And I was wondering, what were the concerns before, and what have made them potentially change their mind?
I think the factors which changed mind in Berlin and Washington are the cruelty of Russian strikes against Kharkiv and other Ukrainian cities. Also, the fact that Russia is on offensive in Kharkiv region and slightly in the east and in the south, with not a lot of gains, but still it's kind of the momentum is behind Russia now. So Ukraine badly needs this support right now with weapons and permission to use them against Russian territory. Another thing we changed, that Russia actively uses its territory to strike Ukraine, increasingly uses its territory to strike Ukraine, not just occupied parts of Ukraine, but launching missiles, drones, long-range artillery, using the long-range artillery from the very soil of the very Russian Federation. That's another thing. And also the general feeling that Ukrainians are fighting bravely, but situation extremely difficult for Ukrainian side, for Ukrainian armed forces. That's also should be taken into consideration when we when we say about the change of calculation among Western partners.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Khotin. Thank you for these, hopefully, some positive developments.